Welcome to my introduction to sexual healing content. I don't know how this video got all chopped up in the beginning, but I'm trying to fix it on this webinar service that I'm probably going to replace very soon because of this very annoying thing. But maybe I'll just send like a really nice formal letter of complaint to the company because they're always asking for my opinion on it, and this is like one of the most annoying things. I can't like edit the recordings as much or as well as I would like to promote the content that I will be introducing probably the end of August, maybe early September. It kind of depends on how much I put into my self-love, karma, and law of attraction content. Karma and law of attraction are kind of gonna tie in together. And I got like major writer's block with my self-love content. So instead of beating myself up over that, I wrote about something that was speaking to me right now, which is going to be a huge part of my content in the future, especially like my life coaching as soon as I get certified, which shouldn't take too long. I'm hoping by the end of the year I should have an actual certification and the monetary means to take more time off from dog grooming so that I can actually make that happen for people. So I'm just going to dive right on into it. I really liked this quote because it kind of ties into these questions that I'm going to ask you guys. What is sexual healing? So there's kind of that's a really broad question. There's a huge gray area of answers to that, but in my mind and my experience and through my healing process, I have learned that you have to decide to acknowledge the fact that you need to heal from sexual trauma before you can actually heal from it. And for a long time, after I left my abuser, I was like, I'm fine, I don't suffer from that. I don't have any issues. I don't need help. But that's the thing is when you go through any trauma, but more specifically sexual trauma, most people get diagnosed with PTSD. And I definitely got diagnosed way down the road from where I was at when I like learned what actually was going on in my body and what was happening internally and externally when I was having sex with someone after I left my first abuser. I would disassociate during sex, and it wouldn't even matter like if the person was being good to me or not. And if I didn't disassociate with a new partner, it didn't last very long. So there is a huge hump to overcome, just admitting that you have a dysfunctional sex life because of sexual trauma, but it really is like a serious problem when sex becomes an obligation and not something enjoyable that's consensual between both parties, because you have so many things that you have to retrain in your brain after being in a relationship like that, or even just a really negative sexual encounter that leaves a lasting impression. Rape, basically, or sexual assault, or sexual harassment. I mean, there's so many different shades of sexual trauma, but I'm going to kind of give you a little perspective from my point of view, and hoping that I can learn some things from you guys too if you reach out to me. Where do we start and why? I believe that the first place to start is looking at what's called the Bill of Sexual Rights. And this comes from the University of Alberta Sexual Assault Center. This is just something that I found when I kind of started to realize that there was something just not right with my sex life. I didn't enjoy sex, and there was a point in my life when I didn't think I would ever have a normal sex life again. I felt like less of a woman. I felt like I had something taken away from me that I was never going to get back, and it's absolutely not true. You totally have the ability to heal. You just have to make sure that you do it at your own pace and you don't make time your enemy, and heavily, heavily consider like PTSD centered therapy. It's called EMDR, and I'll kind of get into that more when I actually start releasing more of this content at the end of the month. But um, when you decide to be sexually intimate with someone, challenge yourself to take some steps towards engaging in healthier sexual activity. A couple of, I really wholeheartedly believe that this Bill of Sexual Rights ties into the core values of Lotus Love, and self love is like step number one. Step number one. And once you hone in self love and you learn to pay closer attention to your needs, you are able to create healthy boundaries in your life. And I think that's step two. And then you get to the point where you understand offering and receiving love on your own terms, not somebody else's. Um, Steps that are going to be something that I'm going to go way more in depth into when I start writing this content for the end of August. Kind of start with these ones that I have over here. And the first one I have to go with is, you have the right to develop healthy attitudes about sex. And I will say that 1,000 more times because it is really, really, truly something that you need to believe in your heart and not just like acknowledge for a few weeks or even months. Like, you have to really dedicate yourself to knowing what you deserve and retraining your brain to have experiences with sexual pleasure versus just having sex to appease someone or keep someone quiet or make them feel better about themselves. Like, you can't do that. And I know it's really easy to, specifically with people that have been abused or raped or, are in an abusive relationship, you really have to retrain your brain, or it's going to be really, really hard for you to have a positive sex life, let alone like, actually have sex with someone to enjoy it for you and the other person, but it should start with you. Um, you have the right to a loving partner that understands this and understands you. You do not have to suffer. You do not have to make it a job or an occupation or even a habit to coddle someone who is basically making it a right for them to touch your body or find pleasure in doing so when you're not in the same headspace. That's super, super, super important. So you have a right to receive accurate information about sexual interactions and sexual trauma and how it may or may not be affecting you. And I'm going to be offering a lot of great resources with this content later on in the month. You have a right to set your own sexual limits, and you have a right to have a partner who respects that, understands it, and is willing to communicate in depth and clearly to you about your needs in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom, because I think that sexual trauma can manifest in weird ways. Like, I like guys hit on me a lot, and it's not because I like it. I really like would rather not have the attention all the time because I'm just weird about that. Like, I want attention, but from the right people and respectful people and people who cherish the fact that I want to give them consent to touch me or open up that part of me, because it is very special and it's locked away in a little box, and my heart always protects it. And no pun intended with the box thing, by the way, but I just thought about it and that's kind of funny. So, what you can expect in the next month is a lot more than this, but this is just the basics that I wanted to cover today. And um, those basics are steps to developing healthy views on sexuality and sexual encounters, even with yourself, because that's also super important. Um, Learning to honor the gift of giving yourself permission to set your own boundaries, cater to your specific intimate needs and desires. Consent, consent, consent. I really cannot stress this enough, and I'm going to probably do a whole week on consent and do a really, really in-depth look at, the beginning, middle, and end of that, and how you can kind of have that a view like really skewed from early on in life. I mean, I just posted about that on my Instagram, and it goes as far back as when I was just a young girl. I had like curly little blonde locks, literally like Goldilocks when I was a kid. And I distinctly remember being in Honolulu at Pearl Harbor with my family one time. We were visiting Hawaii, and these Japanese women who've probably never seen like a blonde girl like that before, or at least not that many of them, um, were like touching my hair and like, like speaking about the texture and the color, and they were calling me an angel. And it's like, sure, that stuff is positive and I could look at it like a compliment, but it also was one of the reasons why I felt like it was okay to just like let people do things like that, even if it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted at the time or ever. So that can translate into unhealthy views on not just sexual consent, but consent with everything in life. You should not impose your desires or even your needs on other people. You should be radically self-reliant, and if somebody chooses to want to do that, that's different. But I like, why wouldn't you want that? Um, why wouldn't you want to feel appreciated in that way? Another thing that you can expect is help with learning the power of conversation with your partners, friends, and family about your sexual healing process, because that is really important in order to get the desired effect and support and space, even from your loved ones, to make this really kind of fucked up and hard, raw journey of fighting your demons and literally retraining your brain to think in a healthy way. Because some people don't even start out their sexual life with a healthy view on it. So I really want to change that. Um, So that's about it. This is just a little introductory video, so I definitely will be doing a lot of writing on that this month, and I promise the self-love will eventually have content. I just got really bad writer's block, and I decided to do something different because I was feeling passionate about this today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me a message, or reach out over my Instagram or YouTube channel or anything like that to have any questions answered, or even to just like have a conversation or suggestions about what kind of things you would hope to see in that kind of content. I really hope that I can get to the point where like-minded individuals who are in the position of being able to heal others can create a team with me and start a sexual revolution. It's super, super important, and nobody ever pays attention to it enough. And I'm not going to sit down and keep quiet anymore. I'm just not. So I hope that your day is just as beautiful as your smile. And I hope that if you do have a special someone in your life, they make you feel honored and appreciated for choosing to make this journey. Thank you.